Hey playa, if you're going off to college soon or it's something you're going to do in the future, it's important to know that if you're going to live on campus, you're going to have to deal with roommates. So in this story, I want to share what it was like with my first college roommate, how we made things work, the awkwardness we experienced, and how I walked in on him having sex.
This is the Josh Speaks, you're watching the Josh Speak.
When I first started college, I was going to the same college as my older brother, so we both wanted to live in the same building, but we lived in different hallways. Every floor in that building was separated into boys' floors or girls' floors, so no boys lived on the same floor as any of the girls. The room that I had was supposed to be a double, meaning there were 2 computer desks, 2 closets, and 3 beds. It was kind of confusing when I walked in and saw 3 beds there. There was 1 single and a double, so since I was the first one in the room, I took the single side. I then began setting up all my stuff. I put my clothes away in the closet, I set up my bedspread, put up my computer, and waited for my 2 roommates to show up. Eventually, the first one did. He introduced himself and then set up all his stuff on the bottom bed, closet, and desk, leaving the third kid to try to juggle and figure everything out when he came. The 2 of us then tried to take some time to get to know each other because, look, this was the first time I've ever had a roommate outside of a family member, so I figured if I was sharing this room with this kid, I should probably get to know him. When the third kid came in, I realized he was super tall, and yet he had to climb on top of this bunk bed, which only had a little bit of space up there. The 3 of us then had to re-navigate the room so we could fit everyone in there. We ended up talking to the RA, and the RA told us, yeah, after a week or 2, we'll be able to move that third guy out of there. So for the time being, that third super tall kid had to sleep on top of this little bunk bed space and pretty much lived out of his bags because it didn't make sense to put his clothes away, only to have to pack them up to move somewhere else. And because this was such a new experience for me, I didn't really know the protocols of how I was supposed to interact with these 2 guys. Should I say good morning to them every time I wake up? Should I say goodbye every time I leave to go to class? Or should I even just shut off the lights every time they lie in bed to go to sleep but I'm still up? I wasn't quite sure what made sense, so I just stuck with saying goodbye every time I left the room and shutting off the lights every time they wanted to go to sleep. And after about a week or 2, each of my 2 roommates started to develop their own groups of friends. I would hang out with my brother's friends, so anytime I would interact with them, it'd only be in the room. And there were plenty of times where one of my roommate's friends would come to the room to either talk or drink or just hang out, and none of it really bothered me. I was a pretty go with the flow kind of guy. But eventually that third roommate moved out, so it was down to me and the first guy that came into the room after me. We didn't really have any problems with each other at all. He kept to his space, I kept to mine. We didn't really share anything either, so I think that just made things a little bit easier. So after that first semester, we decided to keep being roommates because there really wasn't a reason to not be. But by the second semester, things were starting to change because now he had a girlfriend and she would come and hang out in the room pretty much all the time. Now I have to say, I was a little oblivious to some of the cues and signs that he was giving off for me to get the hell out of the room. Now that his girlfriend would come over and hang out in the room, we didn't spend as much time just playing on our computers. Instead, he opted to turn off the lights and just hang out in the bed with this girl. And for me, even when he shut off the lights, I would still sit there in the dark on my computer watching shows like Gargoyles and Darkwing Duck eating pizza. Being in college and living in a dorm on campus, you realize you have a lot more free time than you probably ever did before. So with all that free time, I would just sit and watch TV shows. And there were quite a few times I would hear them over on the bed whispering to each other, but because I had nowhere to really go, I would just sit on my computer and try to ignore it, which definitely wasn't the best thing to do because it would prompt my roommate to go to his computer, shoot me a message, and say something like, hey dude, would you mind heading out for a bit so I can hang out with my girlfriend alone? Whenever he would send me a message, I would 100% leave, but man, was I stubborn to not just leave knowing that they were hanging out there. Stupid, Josh, stupid. Anyway, whenever I'd leave the room, I'd walk down the halls, walk around campus, and just kind of give him maybe an hour or 2 to do whatever they needed to do in the room because I didn't want to be a jerk and interfere. But that surely was not the case this one time. I went to go hang out with my friends over in their room one Saturday night, and late at night I came back to my room to walk in on them having sex. Let me first give you all the details here so you can tell me every step of the way, Josh, why? So basically when I got to the room, generally we only locked the bottom lock, which was the main one. So I went to go open that lock and it was turning, but the top lock was also locked, which made me a little concerned. For a second or 2, I wondered why he would lock the top lock so late on a Saturday night. So I went to open it, turn the lock, and as I was turning that second lock, I heard him jump out of bed and start yelling, no, don't come in. I started to open the door and got it about that much open before he ran and shut that door so hard and so quickly that I just kind of backed away and said, Sorry dude, I'll come back later. I just turned and started walking down the halls and gave my brain a second to process what was going on. The reason he locked that top lock was because he was in there with his girlfriend, doing whatever they were doing, and he didn't want me barging in, kinda like I did. Now in that little space of door that opened, I didn't see much, the lights were off, so luckily his sanctity with him and his girlfriend was safe. But now I was in kind of an awkward position. I went back to my friend's room and told them, hey guys, I just walked into my roommate having sex and I'm just gonna hang out here for a while until I can go back there. Everyone was like, yeah, cool, no problem, do whatever you gotta do. But it really got me thinking, what are the protocols for when your roommate wants to spend time with their girlfriend and you're just kinda there? I always heard about the sock on the door thing, but I didn't think that was a legit thing that people did. And maybe in this case, it's what he should have done, so I would have known. Or maybe that top lock was the metaphorical sock and I just didn't realize it. Either way, I came back to the room about an hour later, his girlfriend was gone, he was sitting there on his computer like nothing happened. When I walked in the room, I said hey, sat down on my computer and pretended like nothing happened until he came over to me to talk to me about it. He simply said, dude, I'm sorry about that, I didn't really mean to confuse you, to which prompted me to say to him, dude, I'm sorry I interfered in your business, like that wasn't the right thing to do. From there, we had a mutual understanding. If the top lock was locked, there was some hanky-panky going on in the room, and that was the cue for that person to get the heck out of there. Eventually, my roommate started hanging out with one of the fraternities there on campus, and as he got in closer with those guys, he realized for his second year, he probably wanted to live with them, which meant I had to find a new roommate. But that's a story for another time. So I wanna know, what do you think? Are you going to college soon, or have you ever had a roommate before? Leave your comment below and we'll talk about it. Spending that first year with someone I didn't know was kind of scary, but overall it was a good experience for me. It broke me out of my shell, and it taught me things that I wasn't used to before, like if the top lock is locked, don't walk in. So if you're going off to college and you're gonna have to interact with the new roommates or people that you just don't know, trust me, it's a character building exercise. And as you get to know them better and they get to know you, you guys will work out a system that works for you. As always, guys, love and peace.